This video will show you how to create new function from the old function. In particular, we can talk about sum, difference, product, and quotient of functions so that you can create new function. And we can also do composition, we will see later. So given two functions, let's say f of x equal to x minus 3 over 2 and g of x equal to square root of x. Then we can add them. For example, f plus g of x will be f of x plus g of x will be x minus 3 over 2 plus square root of x. Similarly, we can talk about the difference of f and g. We can talk about the product of f and g. And we also talk about the quotient of f over g, which is f of x over g of x will be equal to x minus 3 over 2 square root of x. But we know that a function has domain and range. What is the domain if you sum up two functions? So the domain of each of the new function is the intersection of the domain of f and g. For the quotient, then we must exclude the point where g of x equals 0 after you take the intersection. So let's look at the example. If f of x equal to x minus 3 over 2, g of x equals square root of x, then you can form the sum f plus g of x will be f of x plus g of x will be x minus 3 over 2 plus square root of x. This is the rule of the function. How about the domain? So domain of f plus g is the domain of f intersect the domain of g. Now what is the domain of f? Now f of x is x minus 3 over 2. So we know the domain of f is all the x so that the rule makes sense. In this case, x can be any real number because you can take any number minus 3 divided by 2. It still makes sense. Then how about domain of g? Since you're taking the square root, domain of g must be collection of all the real number greater than or equal to 0. Otherwise, you cannot take square root. So this is the interval from 0 to infinity. So if you take the intersection, domain of f intersect with domain of g, this R intersect the interval from 0 to infinity, and this is actually the answer is 0 to infinity after you take the intersection. Now let's look at the quotient. The domain of f is the set of all real number. Domain of g will be the interval from 0 to infinity. Now, so domain of f over g, this is the quotient now, is the domain of f intersect with domain of g, but you also exclude the point x where gx equal to 0 because you cannot divide by 0. Now, when is gx equal to 0? Now, let's calculate them. This is equal to x. Gx equal to 0 means square root of x equal to 0. And we know square root of x equal to 0 means x equal to 0. So you take away the point 0. It means you have intersection of domain of f and g, which is 0 to infinity including 0. And you take away the point 0, and you're left with an open interval from 0 to infinity, excluding 0 now. Another way to create new function from the old function is by composition. A composition of two functions is apply two functions, one at a time. For example, you can apply the function f first, then apply function g. Now this is called a composition. We call it g composed with f. G composed with f means you apply the function f first, then apply the function g. Now each function has a domain. So I have here a domain of f, as you see on the diagram here. This is the domain of f. Then I have also a domain of g. When you apply the composition, apply the function f first, then you want to apply function g. You must make sure whatever you get after you apply function f is inside the domain of g. So it is not true that after you apply function f of x will be inside the domain of G. So sum of the x will not give you f of x inside the domain of G. So that means that you must make sure that whatever x you have in the domain of f, you must make sure that the image lies in the domain of G. So you must exclude some of the point in the domain of f, so after you exclude this part, then it is safe that all the image will be lie inside the domain of G now. Then you can apply G. So that is why the domain of G of f is defined to be consist of all x in the domain of f, for which f of x is in the domain of G. Now, how do you find the formula for G of f now? Here is an example. If f of x equal to x minus 3 over 2, G of x equals square root of x, then G composed with f is you apply f of x first, then continue to apply G. When apply f to x, you get x minus 3 over 2. Then you apply G, which will take the square root whatever you have, so it gives you the square root of x minus 3 over 2. So we know the rule of G of fx equal to square root of x minus 3 over 2. Then what is the domain of this? So in order to find the domain of this composition, it must have x belong to domain of f, and such that f of x must be inside the domain of G. So that means that this is all the x. Domain of f consists of all the real number. As we know, domain of f is all the real number. Domain of G is all the number from 0 including 0 to infinity. So I want f of x belong to the domain of G. That means x minus 3 over 2, which is f of x now, must belong to the interval from 0 to infinity. So what does it end up with? So for this to happen, so it's just do a rough calculation. So I want x minus 3 over 2 belong to the interval from 0 to infinity. Means this is greater than or equal to 0. That means multiply both sides by 2, you get x minus 3 greater than or equal to 0. Adding 3 both sides must x greater than or equal to 3. So therefore, you can simplify the interval to be x belong to R and x must be greater than or equal to 3. So this will become the interval from 3 to infinity, right?